What's up, everybody? On this episode of conventioNOT, the guys get together to help promote Chris's new book, You Could Be Anything Major. Just like normal, we turn into a little bit more personal conversation, and we let out a little bit of the details about the way that Mike, myself, and Chris communicate in between the shows that you get so accustomed to listen to. It gets a little vulnerable from time to time, and it's really worth a listen. So we hope you stick around, pull up your chair, your cup of coffee, your glass of whiskey, whatever time of day it is for you, and enjoy. Thanks for listening.
Oh, maybe I was able to get away with that, but...
Yeah, man. Well, I started recording now. It's fine.
It's all good.
We're all here. It's all good. It's all good. Welcome to the Friday episode. We're getting into work habits. It's morning for you, Chris. It's afternoon. Are you working today? You working deep into Friday today?
I'm done with work today.
That a boy.
You done?
I could see that. I could see the smile on his face that he's definitely done with work for the whole week. But you've been...
I got a cup of coffee and a cup of whiskey.
That's going to take you till about... Yeah, you're going to switch it up about halfway through the episode. Hopefully our listeners are going to notice, wow, Ryan's getting pretty fired up. He must be sipping into that whiskey now.
It's back-to-back recording weeks. Back-to-back recording days.
Yeah, we had a interview yesterday. That was fun. Speaking of interviews, though, this is always something we touch upon. Every time there's three of us on here, I'm going to talk about how one of us really never stops working. And, we got interviews coming up. We got promos going out. Scrilla, what have you been doing today?
It's a lot of things happening, y'all. One of the big things that I've been working on is putting out a children's book, which is something I've wanted to do for a long time. And just with all this time that we have in this pandemic that we're going through, I decided I was just going to basically get off my butt and make it happen. So I put out a book.
I saw the post on IG today. I was really excited, man. It looks so sharp. Like those must be like the stock like photos, eh?
Yeah. Those are like
it was clean.
Like source file.
No, it looks amazing.
Yeah, man. Thanks a lot, y'all. Y'all have been so supportive. And I put it out today and the feedback has been phenomenal. And one of the things that's actually surprised me is I probably received like 5 to 6 direct messages from people who are like, hey, I've always wanted to write a book. And like, can you tell me about the process? And it sounds like it planted some seeds in some adults to just like, hey, you can do this exact same thing. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Just knowing
it's a good time to write a book.
Yeah, right.
COVID.
Just knowing you, Chris, I can imagine like the planting of the seeds is almost as significant, right? As like the sales of the book. Maybe not as significant, but that's a big deal just to inspire people like that.
That's like right? The deal for me. Yeah. Like just planting those seeds. I don't know if you all have had mentors in your life, and maybe we can like touch on that and you guys can share some of your experience, whether you've had a mentor or mentors or you haven't. But the people who have helped mentor me in my life really planted everlasting seeds of encouragement. And it's been a real big deal for me. So I want to make sure I pay it forward.
This little mentee right there piping in. Did you hear him?
Yeah, and he knows it's his time to shine. I like that. He knew the subject matter. I'm curious, just to give, because we're gonna help the promoing, because Scrilla he's humble to his absolute core, but his book is called You Can Be Anything Major. And it's right now available at youcanbeanythingmajor.com. I know it's going to be more readily available in the near future at other sources. But for now, we're stoked on that outlet because it seems to be really geared towards the artist and, profits going towards the artist. As an artist, Chris, can I ask you? And I know like you just put it out, so hopefully it's nothing but like, oh, Chris, you're the man. But as a creative, like you've been putting stuff out to the public for decades. But this is like totally new, right? I mean, how are you like a little baby deer? Does this make you really uncomfortable or what?
You know what? In some ways, yes, I'm uncomfortable because it's an area that I don't have any experience in, putting out a book. But I don't think I've shared this with you all. I say maybe like 7-8 years ago, I put out a fitness DVD.
What?
Did I tell y'all this story?
Oh, wait a minute.
Wait, I need to hold on. I need to give you the context. It is not my it's not my DVD. I produced it, but I was taking this kickboxing class, and the teacher, her name was Jane, but they called her G.I. Jane, and I just thought it was like the most awesome, most difficult class I'd ever taken. So after taking this class for about 4 months, I basically went up to Jane and said, hey, would you be interested in putting out a DVD? Like, I think your class should be on a DVD. And she responded to me that, I'm too old and no, I don't know anything about that. And that was kind of the end of it. Well, about 4 months later, she comes up to me and she says, you know what? I thought about what you said and I want to put out this DVD. And basically I said, okay, well, I don't know how to put out a DVD, but I'm going to figure it out. And let's get started. Yeah.
I remember that. What was the name of it? Can I get that on eBay?
It might be on eBay or somewhere. I think it was just called G.I. Jane Kickboxing. We didn't have like a very creative.
Well, am I going to get any cameos? Like, am I going to get any Scrilla visuals, or are you just behind the scenes the whole time?
All right, so I got to let y'all behind the curtain. So the whole plan was, we're doing this DVD. And the thing is, like with Jane, she was a teacher who could just improvise. So I think she would have a general idea of what she wanted to do in class, but she could just freestyle it and it just looked great. But when you're shooting a DVD, you can't really just freestyle it because you have to do multiple takes. So everything needs to be exactly the same. So I think that was a bit challenging for her. And I was in the DVD in the background, but on the day of the shoot, she was having trouble remembering the moves. So what we had to do was give her an earpiece, and I'm off camera, so I'm no longer in the DVD, and I'm like feeding her all the moves. Like, okay, now let's go to the punch kick combo. All right, next we're gonna go side to side lunges in 3, 2. So I was like behind the scenes, but it was a cool process, man. It was just
That's incredible, though. Like, I love that you said you made the offer, and it didn't really stick right away. And then the customer came back and was like, I do want to do that. And you're like, shit, I better figure out. What did I even offer you? Okay. I just got to figure out how to do that now.
Yeah, just planted the seed. I mean,
just dream. Yeah,
just dream. I had no idea how to make this happen, but I felt so strongly about her skills and her ability that I was willing to just put myself out there like, hey, I want to help you do this. Trust me enough and let's make this happen. And she came back like 4 months.
Where did you shoot it?
We shot it at a gym that I don't think she taught at this gym, but she knew the owner. So they let us use the space. It was really cool.
That's actually a pretty, I'm making jokes and stuff, but that's actually a pretty, she must have been a pretty impressive, for you to even have the interest to kind of go through that process. I mean, doesn't sound like you got a huge paycheck from it. I mean, there was no promise for you, right? It was just an learning experience. And
lost money on the project, but it wasn't about the money, you know?
Exactly.
I'm sure we all did, but it was just the experience and no one can ever take that away. No one can say oh, well, you all didn't do this. No, we actually did. And to me, that's just a success that we thought about it and we executed.
So now we gotta.
Is that footage on YouTube somewhere? Could we throw that out? See that? Can we put that up on the old channel?
I could probably share with you.
We gotta find that shit, dude. We got to.
I know I have a copy of it somewhere. I can like remember the cover. I feel like it had like a chain link situation.
It was
on
a lot of
Your bio is verging on the awkward scale. You know, like when the bios get so
Did it have
long.
you and her on the back, like back? I feel like you were back to back.
Don't
like
even get my
on the
hopes
block
up,
style
man.
with the.
Yeah.
Oh,
New Kids on the Block style.
we can't.
I remember this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna. I swear.
I need that photo.
I don't know where like DVDs are anymore. It's probably in my stash.
Yeah,
of
wherever that
DVDs,
is. Like
for sure.
you threw it out, dude.
Yeah, that was a bad idea because DVDs were just
That's
extinct
vintage.
after that.
Skrilla, I really appreciate you sharing that with us because I think I expected you to be like, well, you know, I've been out in the public enough, but this is this is a new realm of the public, right? Like, I mean, I think your music and especially the samples and stuff we see on TV, like it's very, very, very wide audience and it reaches everyone, I think. But this is pretty, I guess it's more niche of an audience, huh? I mean, you're selling a friggin' children's book. I don't have any children, so it's definitely the best children's book I've read in a long time. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
That's cool, man. And like, even some of the people who responded today that don't have kids, you know, they've just been like, hey, I want to pay it forward and, you know, send this to my niece. Or someone actually asked if they could donate money so I could just give it to a dreamer that I know, which I thought was really cool. So
that is sweet. Like, hey, man, I want to buy like 10 copies. Just give these away, please. Like, I mean,
What about y'all, though? Like, give me an example or an experience where someone planted a seed in you. And maybe they thought it was something small, but it turned out to be something very, very big. So an example of where someone planted a seed in your life and what happened.
You're talking about
whatever
mentorship?
You want, any kind of seed.
Like, as a mentor or like
an interaction. I mean, it could be anything. Or someone.
I had like a team member one time who he was like a little brother, right? From Big Brothers and Sisters kind of thing. And so this is probably, almost 10 years ago now, 6-7 years ago. So he inspired me to become a big brother. I got qualified and they did the background check and I had like for some time, a little brother. He's an adult now, but that was pretty inspirational that way that I can remember. That's like direct. I for sure have had a lot of mentors who have inspired me, maybe on not something that's just like so much like somebody inspired me to do just this. But I've had other like business mentors who have inspired me to take specific stances on certain situations that have paid off.
Very good. Mike?
I'm having a hard time thinking of like a one-to-one. And to be honest, I'm sure the second we change subjects, I'll be like, oh, wait a minute. We got to go back and backtrack. But I've been like, I talk regularly about, being the youngest. When you have 4 older siblings, like you learn to just shut up and absorb. So I've been I've been getting as much as I could from a lot of sources and kind of filtering. That's just been my process my whole life. But realistically, looking back, man, I've been real blessed to just be put in situations with really good people and to have not been steered in bad directions. Mm-hmm. Like I can look back at my academic experience and then my first couple jobs and like, yeah, sure, we've all had shitty bosses here and there, but maybe I just kind of forget about those memories because in my memory, I'm thinking of like most of my managers and the professors that stick out there. It's all the good ones. It's all the encouraging ones. And I got knocked down a couple times for sure. But one of my bigger mentors. All right. So that took me a minute, but I thought of one because I do reference this pretty regularly. I love to write and I've always enjoyed writing. Any kind of like writing. It's my favorite way to express myself. And when I was in grad school, it was actually before I was into grad school, it was like my senior thesis. And I had my graduate advisor was an engineering prof, and we didn't have like a friendly relationship. Like, I had a big beard and like long hair, and I was wearing like corduroys. And was kind of a hippie in college, and he was very button up. Well, come on, McDivitt. I mean, you can call me what you want to call me, but I wasn't. I
think that's
fitting
probably
in
an appropriate
exceptionally
term.
well.
I don't want to typecast you. It was before hipster. The term hipster hadn't been invented yet,
right? It had not been invented yet, and I wasn't that by any means. I was just living out my college life of like not washing my hair and just stuffing it all into a hat, and like, yeah, I was that guy. And at some point, I kind of realized that I rubbed this guy the wrong way, and as you've learned to appreciate in the show, that didn't bother me at all. So I kind of continued to rub this guy in the wrong way because we had this relationship where he couldn't kick me out. He needed me to help with not help with research, but I was the grunt, just being there, and he couldn't like just kick me out of his lab. So he had to put up with me. But when it got time to finish it on my thesis, he obviously had to review it. And I've always kind of written like I speak, which is to say more than necessary. And when you're writing in that arena, like when you're writing an academic type of paper or, just like a technical paper for a technical journal submission, they don't want all my bullshit. You know what I mean? Like they don't want to read the way that I speak. It's just a very different tone. It's very objective and very matter of fact. And like, there's not a lot of linking type verbiage. And like, it's not a fun thing to read. It's just informative. And I'll never forget, man, I gave him the first draft of my thesis. And like at this point in your life, dude, like this is without a doubt the most important thing I had ever submitted. I wasn't going to be graded on the draft, but like, it was years of work basically that I was sharing with him. And he came back to me like a week later, and of course I'm like losing sleep every single night. He comes back to me a week later, and I'm just going to paraphrase, but he tells me, "Don't waste my time with your shit. Don't ever bring me a manuscript or a document like this again unless you've had someone else look at it. I don't have time for this shit." He said,
Whoa.
"You see these other graduate students around here? Give it to them. Have them teach you how to write so I don't have to read this again." Yeah, bro. Like this was the relationship we had. Like this guy literally, I can tell you the one time he complimented me, and it was to another student, and he thought I was out of earshot. And he was only doing it to put down the other student. Like he was only doing it to say like, even Mike did good on that test. Like I swear to God, this was the relationship I had with one of my more significant, I'm not going to call him a mentor because he was an asshole. And hopefully most people that know me would never say like, yeah, Mike is an asshole. He was an asshole, but sometimes those assholes are instructional and informative. And you know what? Looking back at that piece of paper that I shared with him, it was very inappropriate. The tone of it was just off. And I think I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here, but I think he had just realized by then that I didn't really respond to like subtle communication, and that I wasn't like, if he just like nudged me in a direction, that I wasn't going to take that. So he needed to like straight up 90-degree turn me. And I don't know, to this day, I would say I probably take as much pride in my ability to communicate like via writing than anything. Like, other than my wife and my dog. But like, that's something I'm actually real proud of, is my ability to write. And yeah, it's not because I had a bunch of people telling me I was great at it all the time. It's because I had a couple people tell me I was horrible at it and I needed to get better at it.
That's crazy.
Chris, did you have to mess with an editor for the book? Or what was the publishing process?
So I went through Book Baby, which they do like self-publishing and all that kind of stuff. But I've got like some good friends that are former editors and things like that. So I just had them take a look at it. I mean, granted, I was writing for like 3 to 4, 5-year-olds. So I hope I could at least write a coherent sentence, but I had him take a look at it and everything checked out. So that was like really easy. You know, if I was writing for adults, probably would be a lot more work and a lot more expensive. Yeah.
Yeah, you need a little bit more formidable thing.
Can you, like, how do you work with someone on, because the artwork, man, like the imagery pops. And I mean, I think it's very distinctive. Like, how do you work on that? How do you collaborate with someone on that?
So the book is illustrated by my friend Angie Hurd. And Angie, I actually met her through like when I was touring and stuff like that in college.
Okay.
And I did a show at Ball State, and that's how I met her. But we've just been friends and kept in contact since. But I knew she was an art teacher, so I reached out to her. And whenever I'm like collaborating with other creatives, especially other artists that do things that I necessarily don't do or can't do, I don't like to put people in a box. So I just try to give like the bare minimum of direction. Hey, you know, I want to imagine Major as a doctor, but I don't want to give too many details. I want Angie to run with it and
for sure,
interpret that, you know, the way that she feels. And so it was really easy working with her. I just basically had some general ideas as to what photos I wanted. I wanted a photo with me and Major's mom holding his hand, a photo with him, you know, as a president of a company. And she just basically created.
So you are that specific, though. It's not like, hey, here's a verse version of the you know, here's the script and you go with it. You're a little bit more specific than that, right?
Yeah, a little bit more. I mean, she saw the text, but you know, I'm not specific to where it's like, well, he needs to be wearing a tie that is, you know, magenta. You know what I mean? It's just
you're just not a control guy like that. Like, I don't know if McDivitt or I put a book out, we may be like, you know, put him in a bow tie. So is this one of Angie's, like in terms of sharing with the public?
Do I know about?
Is Angie done some stuff to be publicly released in the past?
She has not. But apparently, Major has something he wants to say.
I hear that. I love it.
Oh, you're getting shy when you get close to the microphone. All right. Yeah, he is the star.
I can appreciate a man who knows he's being talked about. Like,
that's right.
This was her first time doing a project like
it's inherent.
I do know. She had not done a book or anything like that, but she would post her art on Facebook all the time. So I would just take a look at it, and I knew I wanted her for the project.
Well, on the whole, like mentee mentorship plane, you know, like, have you given any thought to the idea of like, and in the past, you know, working with other artists on like tracks and things like that, is it kind of not awkward, but do you get excited or nervous when you're walking with someone into that waters for the first time? Like, are you excited to be there to hold their hand, or are you like, oh man?
You know what? I'm probably more excited than anything because it allows me to set the tone. And I think setting the tone is like super important because not only are you like setting boundaries, right? So this is kind of my expectations, but you also can like feel out the artist and kind of how they work, what type of feedback they prefer, right? So you were mentioning, you know, the guy, you don't call him your mentor, but he gave you some pretty harsh feedback, right? But it pushed you in a way. That's not normally my style, but if I work with someone where they need that kind of harsh criticism, then at least I know, okay, this is what I have to kind of do. Got to beef it up a bit. So I love that process of just working with someone for the first time. And for the most part, it's a good experience.
I mean, I was going to say, sometimes, man, you go through some shit with someone for their first time and you're just like, what was that? Like, what? I thought you were going to be the normal you that I've met 50 times before. And we just did that together. And that was, unfortunately.
Yeah. I run into that. I feel like with a lot of people who have like the idea that they have a different like work personality and personal personality, right? Like those people who are like so markedly, like they're pridefully different between work and home. Like, I feel like that's when I have that disjointed experience because I feel like most of the people that I'm working with, even if I'm not working like on a creative project, what I'm trying to do, especially if I'm in a situation where I'm trying to coach them, I'm trying to coach out whatever creativity it is that's in them, because like that's what makes them feel most proud, and frankly usually what gets them to do the work, right? Like I know in my case, like the art in this book is really cool because as I read it, I mean, it's a kid's book, right? So like, there's some bigger, broader meaning into it, I'm sure, from your side, Chris. But the other thing is like, I'm trying to imagine like what it takes to sit down and like create different panels of artwork for these types of like, stories, because that's really what the kid is focusing on, right? Like we all know when we start to read a kid a book, like, especially experience over experience, he almost knows the book, or she almost could recite the book back to you. But that artwork is pretty dynamic.
What sticks, right? Like, I don't remember. Think about it. Like, think about your children's books of your pet. Do you even remember what page the words were on? You know what I mean? Like, I don't even remember how the words were assembled. It was pretty much just an audiobook. You know what I mean? Like, my mom was reading it and I was looking at the pretty Easter eggs. Hey y'all, it's Mike from the show. If you're hearing this, that means you already found us. If you wouldn't mind, take a moment, let us know how you did find us. Maybe provide some feedback. And any and all ratings are actually very helpful for us. We're just looking to grow the show, expand our audience, and provide you with better and better content. Appreciate you all for taking the time. As always, hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Scrilla, do you have a go-to? Like, do you have a favorite children's book?
Oh, I mean, Green Eggs and Ham is like my all-time favorite, just because I remember. Yeah, it was my first book, and I just thought it was so cool. It rhymed, and maybe that played a little bit into me rhyming, right? And then it had this bright orange cover, and I remember being so upset when the book just basically, I didn't have a cover anymore. It was just pages. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like disintegrated.
So that's my favorite.
I think Dr. Seuss was most influential for me too. Like as far as remembering. Yeah, I think so. And then like I graduated probably a little bit more into like Hardy Boys type books, like teen mystery type stuff.
I'm trying to bring up.
But yeah, I think it was
I'm trying
Seuss.
to find the name of this book. Junior, what was the Magic Caterpillar book? The Hungry Caterpillar. Did you guys ever see that?
Yeah, I remember
that.
that. Yeah.
It had the big green caterpillar on the cover. Like, oh, man. I love that book. But that's another one. Like, I can't even think of how the words were assembled, like where they were on the page. I just remember the visual. I mean, it just goes to show.
Is that a Carl book?
I got to look it up because you'll remember like the visual of it. It's like, oh, yeah, everyone had that book.
George Carl? No, George Carl's the coach.
Do you guys remember the Choose Your Own Adventure books? That was like a preteen book. Oh, man. I used to love those joints.
Damn, McDivitt. Eric Carl. How did you know that?
Eric Carl, yeah. Eric Carl had an installation at the High Museum for a long time. And this was just like he's one of my more favorite artists. I would love to have some Eric Carl work. Yeah.
Yeah, the Hungry Caterpillar, the visual on it. So McDivitt, did he do the artwork and the... So, like back then, did the guys write and draw the books?
It probably depends. I mean,
but like on all the Dr. Seuss shit.
But yeah,
like is that?
I think Dr. Seuss is the author of his books. I'm pretty sure.
Who's the artist, though? Do we know?
I think he is as well. I think I saw a Dr. Seuss installation here one time at an art store. I kicked myself. Like the prints were like just slightly out of the price range, but not too much to wish. Like I wish I would have bought a hand printed Dr. Seuss print. I think he was. I hate to misspeak this stuff, right? But I think that Dr. Seuss was pretty, at least influential in his own authoring, as well as the artwork.
I'm struggling.
Positive. Yeah.
But I'm struggling to think that, like in Dr. Seuss, isn't? I'm struggling to think that Dr. Seuss got all the credit for all that if there was a collaborating artist. You know what I mean? Like that would be a shame. That would be a shame if there's someone out there that drew all those drawings and we don't know their name, right? Like, oh shit, I should have asked for some sort of credit, royalties at least.
That would suck.
No, I think he did his own artwork. He's some pretty dark shit, man. If you ever see his other artwork, it's pretty dark.
Google would know. I mean, instead of us pontificating,
Google would know.
Don't know about.
He's the author for sure. I have to imagine. It's also visual art. His name is Theodore Seuss Geisel, Geisel, better known as Dr. Seuss.
He's a cartoonist, bro. Yeah. It was all him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so Eric Caro is more like a multimedia. So a lot of that like Caterpillar book, like I'm sure our listeners could remember that is, I think it's like tissue paper modified with some, different types of paste or these types of things, and then building
multimedia, as they say.
Multimedia.
On the book front, Scrilla, you got a little more promo activity coming up, right? You got an interview?
Yeah. One of the local news stations is going to do a story on Monday. And then another station actually just reached out today. So I don't know. It's kind of hard to get two stations to cover the same story, but we'll see.
How did you pull that off? Like, why they're real interested? I mean, you put out a song a month or so ago and they featured you in that too. Like they're lapping up everything you put out, dude. That's incredible.
You know what, man? Good relationships. And I think just them seeing a different side of me. I mean, most of the media people that I work with, they see, the darker side, when we're talking about homicides and overdoses and things like that. So they're kind of seeing a much lighter side with these placements and, positive messages on social distancing and children's books.
Is it possible that we see like the clip before, like I know you got this planned clip, but the clip before is going to be like you, hi, I'm Chris Harris from the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner, and I'm talking about a triple body murder from Danny Green. We discovered again, and then it's like the next clip after commercial, it's you talking about a children's book.
No, I don't think we see that. I hope not.
You might have to have Dr. Barr do that clip, that segment beforehand. You can have to call in.
It's crazy, man, because, admittedly, I've known you for what, probably about 4 or 5 months now, less than a year.
Years.
And like, we met each other through just, through Ryan and these communications. And my original knowledge of you was, he's an artist, but he's got this real job too. And then I got to know you more and you shared the specifics of your job. And it's kind of not morbid, but it's a pretty dark world you're fixed in. But like, I can't even think of you in that way just because so all these people who know you through work, right? It's like, this dude's business. He's all business because you have to be, right? Like the tone of your work is not to be, sorry, but at some point, you being like the positive guy that I know and you being smiley all the time. Like at some point that's almost off-putting, right? When you're speaking on behalf of the morgue regularly. Like, I don't mean to just call it the morgue. I know it's more than that, but.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a lot of stories where, so most of the communication that I do with reporters is through email. Most of the time people they will never see me, right? Or sometimes they won't even hear my voice. And I've had a couple instances where we're holding a press conference and I meet a reporter and I introduce myself and they're just like, wait, you're Chris Harris?
Really?
And they think I was like this old dude, probably like some old white dude or something like that. But the last reporter that did it, she kind of gave herself away and she's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, this is me. And it's funny.
Shit. Well, I'm sorry, but that touches on something, dude. So I'm Mike Sennett. I don't know what the hell anyone thinks or assumes or, but I never get that reaction ever. You know what I mean? Like anytime I show up, I feel like people are like, yeah, I kind of figured you'd be some like bald white dude. You know what I mean? I don't know why. I just assume because I never get the really.
Does
What you get that? What people are like? They thought you would present in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. It happened to me last week, actually. Company we had just acquired. It was like one of their like sales leaders. She and I had worked, I don't know, 10 times together. And I don't know if maybe it's a difference in my voice compared to the way I present. I'm also a little bit more casual when I'm not meeting too, right? Like if I'm meeting, I'm very like, a little bit more formal.
What do the people that do what you do look like? Like, I know why when I show up, why sometimes clients and other engineers are a little like, oh, just because I'm informal and kind of casual like that. I don't show up in the engineer's outfit wearing my hard hat, and people are like, oh, wow.
Right,
this guy
right.
seems kind of happy. Where's the engineer? Like that. That's the only way I can be. That's the only way I can surprise people. Basically, usually it's just to start talking to them, and they'll be like, "Are you the engineer or the marketing guy?" I'm like, what do you need me for today?"
All the above.
Exactly.
I think a lot of times it has to do with age. For you, right? Probably.
They expect like some older,
young stud walking in with some Air Max 90s.
Exactly.
Fresh out of StockX.
I do. Well, that's what I do.
That's exactly why I bring it up. Sorry, Scrilla, but like, is it because you're young? Is it because you're black? Is it because you're smiling? Like, what do you think is the single biggest throw off when people are like, because CHarris is totally neutral, right? Like, there's no giveaway there. McDivitt,
right.
I've never met a black McDivitt. Sorry.
I'm going to go out there and say
there's not a lot of black Irish.
Right? So you can make some assumptions on some names.
I mean, there's probably one, right? Maybe,
not a lot of black Irish.
Yeah. Names, of course, we all make those assumptions, right? But CHarris, it's like pretty ambiguous, It's like, it could be black, it could be white.
Do you?
Yeah, I think if most people just look at my name, they probably assume I'm like a middle-aged white guy. They just probably do,
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
especially with your job role, right? CHarris working.
I mean, just in forensic science, there really aren't a lot of minorities working in general, so the odds are not really, in our favor if they're going to make a guess.
For sure. Yeah.
Then I just surprise them with all my blackness.
Well, no, it really, I'm sorry, but it's a really honest segue to, we've had, as we're basically repping Marco Polo at this point. We just talk about Marco Polo on our podcast constantly. Well, so the three of us communicate a lot via this app, Marco Polo. And I'm not going to talk about it again because we always freaking talk about it. But Chris and I had this crazy back and forth earlier this week. All right. And what we were talking about.
Let's get into it.
So I don't even know over what the duration was. But what'll happen with an app like this is like Ryan will go into a meeting and then come back out of it and be like, what the I missed 23 messages. And then he's got to catch up, before he can chime back in. So Chris and I are going back and forth for 20 plus messages. And I have no idea what got us started. We were talking about sitcoms. And like basically, Chris and I grew up probably less than 200 miles away from one another. You know what I mean? And we were talking about growing up as a young white kid versus growing up as a young black kid, how differently sitcoms are viewed. And like, man, were my eyes open to so many things that I just like, holy shit, I never even thought about that, and admittedly, I've been going through some of that lately. I hope we all have. I hate to say it, but I think
talk about the self-evaluation
and like just the kind of acceptance and the awakening of like, there's a lot of differences here. And I need to start to appreciate them, before I can ever understand them. I need to start to like just be aware of them. And like, I think the first TV show I brought up, and this, I feel kind of vulnerable going into this on the show, but like, I think I asked you if you ever liked Friends. Or
Right.
it was either Friends or Seinfeld.
Or Seinfeld or something like that. And no, I've never liked either of those shows. And I think my response was something along the lines of, they just weren't really popular in the Black community. It was just not a show that we could really relate to. And I mean, hey, I'm sure the show was great. I mean, it was on for 10 seasons or
somebody liked it. Yeah, somebody
liked it. Just not a lot of Black folks. You know what I mean? But I was basically saying like a lot of the shows that, I grew up on, Martin, Living Single, In Living Color, that was a time in the 90s where there was, I felt like a lot of Black sitcoms and Black programming in prime time. And I don't watch as much TV now. I know Blackish is like hugely popular, so that's probably up there right now. But I kind of struggle with sort of what's considered like a Black TV show right now on primetime TV. Not talking about Netflix or any streaming or anything like that.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I got to be honest.
Have you watched Black AF?
No, I haven't. It's in my queue, man. But
have you seen Black AF?
I got too much in the queue.
So Black AF is the Curb Your Enthusiasm to Blackish, in which Kenya Burr.
Oh shit! Yeah, we've watched that. A lot.
It's fucking
That's
great.
Rashida Jones,
it's
right?
really, really
yeah.
good.
Every episode is heavy, like it, but it's
I think it's a Hulu show.
Jesus, I almost said it's like dark comedy, because what I was thinking about was like the weight of the subject matter and but it's hilarious. It's hilariously covered, and he's
so good. She is too.
She's funny as hell, Jones. But he is like, I'm like, who is this guy? Like honestly, and now I understand. Like we've been watching. There's Blackish, and then is it Mixed-ish? Is that the other one?
That's one too. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't watched that much.
Yeah, it's
the young
she's
girl,
younger.
Right?
But Zach Morris is the dad. In Mixed-ish, the dad is Mark Paul Gosselaar, and to be honest, dude, he nails it, because it's like they're in the early 80s, so like the mom and the dad are total like hippies, kind of. He's definitely way more of a hippie than the mom is. The mom is kind of a badass. But yeah, he's like this long-haired hippie. It's fucking Zach Morris, dude. I love it. It's good. It's good because he's just like, he's the Mr. like, what? I don't see color, but it's just constantly coming at him. It's a good show. I feel, how long has that been out for? Was that out 2 years ago?
It's been a couple years, I think.
Yeah?
A few years. Yeah. She broke off. It was like what happened in Blackish is the daughter went to college in New York, right? And that's the premise of the show. She's cool. I like.
Yeah, it's
a
good show. They're both really.
I hope she sticks around for a minute. Do you ever wonder why Mike and I spend all these hours talking to people? Well, mostly it's because we're curious. Secondarily, it's because we like to share the stories of people as we learn how to become better journalists. In order to help us out, we would love if you take a second and give us some feedback on your podcast channel. Just pause the episode, go and write us a review. Give us as many stars as you want. We'll love to read it. Talking about Rashida Jones, and I guess as we make the pivot here into just like discussing open TV shows, but whatever, this is a podcast. We get to do what we want. Have you guys
talk
watched
about whatever we want?
Angie Tribeca?
I have not, and I probably will not.
So if you appreciate Rashida Jones in Parks and Rec, right? So we talked a lot about The Office, and all three of us are big Office fans. Parks and Rec is kind of like the cousin, next trailer park over from The Office. But then, Rashida Jones is who she is, right? When you learn about her, when she gets into Angie Tribeca, she fucking laces it, man. Rashida Jones is a powerhouse for sure.
Yeah, no, she is. She definitely is a fucking powerhouse.
Yeah.
But it's no surprise, right? Like she was born into greatness.
She's Quincy Jones's daughter. Is that?
Yeah.
That's who's her dad? Okay.
I've never seen Angie Tribeca. I got to be honest, dude. Like, and I'm a dog lover. But when I see that the co-star of the show is a dog, I'm just like, I pull back a little bit. I just pull back. I don't know
Angie
why.
Tribeca is like Mel Brooks style comedy, you know? Real
pretty
like loose
slapstick,
leaf,
right?
like get
Like,
smart, very slapstick. The dog, the dog's a character. It's good. There's seasons of it too. It's like one of those ones you could have on. Anna streams TV nonstop. So I was, TV is like in the last like 15 years of my life. I didn't really watch TV before the past 15 years.
Yeah.
Just to be
Well, I
honest
think
with
that we were talking about that, like, because basically that is what happened. Like, I made a reference to Seinfeld or something, and then Chris got back to me and he's like, "Hey man, I know what you're talking about, but like, I don't know that fucking show." Well, he didn't swear. I've never actually heard him swear. And I was like, "Oh man, I never even thought about that." And then I brought up, I was like, "Here's some other shows I bet you didn't watch as a kid." And I mentioned Cheers. And he was like, "Bro, I don't even know anybody that watched Cheers in the community. I don't know a single."
Yeah, no.
I was laughing so hard because I was like, yeah, I hate to say it, but it's a bunch of white dudes sitting in a bar in Boston. Like, it might as well have been a show about fucking aliens, you know? Like,
yeah. Here's the thing, like, and I know black folks are gonna feel me on this. Like, we hear about all the white shows. Like, we can't escape, right? Cheers, Seinfeld, Friends,
that's all the time.
Seventh Heaven, Gilmore Girls, all these shows, right?
Oh, don't drag me into those. Don't drag me into those. No,
I'm not saying. I'm just saying we know, like, of their existence. If someone was like, "Hey, do you watch Gilmore Girls?" I'd be like, "Hell no," but I know what they're talking about. Now, let me ask you about some black shows and see if y'all know about these. Now, some of these are going to be a little obscure. The PJs. Okay, that's a no. What about Thea?
Nope.
I know Theo Huxtable, but unless
Thea.
That's about him, I don't know Theo.
The Parenthood.
Isn't that with the two little ones?
Is
Are
that
there two
UPN?
daughters? Oh shit.
Nope.
Yep.
No, I don't know.
What about In the House? You might know this one.
In the House, I remember that one, but I can't remember the comedian that was the star.
LL Cool J. All right, now those are that's like from the 90s. Or
wait, that was LL Cool J?
Okay, I remember that show well.
Shit.
What about right now, like, I'm talking like the hot black shows. So you probably know this one, Empire.
Yeah, I watched a few seasons of Empire.
Okay.
It was
you just know of it. You don't have to, even if you haven't seen it, you just know of it.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Now, this next one I'm going to say, I say this all the time, and I can't tell you how many white people are like, "No, I've never heard of that show." And it's like one of the biggest shows on cable right now. Power.
Yeah. That's
y'all scared me for a minute. Y'all scared me. It was a little bit of silence.
Power and Empire, I feel like those are like parallel of sort.
Insecure is
That's
another.
the 50 Cent show, right?
Now.
Power.
Insecure is the shit, dude. I didn't even know it was still going, but the first couple seasons, I fell in love with Issa. Like, that girl is so amazing. She's a powerhouse, dude.
She sure is. But yeah, those are the kind of.
I'm doing good on current ones, so keep going. I like this better.
Killing it.
What about my favorite current? I guess it's not exactly current, but close to current is a Carmichael show. With Gerard Carmichael. Have you guys ever seen that one?
I remember
a couple seasons of it.
They canceled it though, right?
What's that?
It got canceled, right?
They canceled it. Then one of the streamers picked it back up a little bit. The sneakers are so fly. Bet, like, hands down, like,
really?
Carmichael's for sure sneakerhead, no question. LeBron did this show, and this isn't like sitcom, but LeBron did this show. I think it's called The Shop, right? It's on HBO, and so Carmichael was on that episode. I really appreciate it. But I like Carmichael. They're a little bit easier to recognize now, maybe because the algorithm serves them up. But there was like a whole host of Cosby-esque shows, right? Cosby Show, Different World. I think there might have been a third one of some sort. Raven, the little girl had a show.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I guess the little girl probably ended up being bigger than all of them, right? Like, Raven Simone was on
Blackish. She's the sister on Blackish.
Huge, right? Like, she's a big deal. But yeah, we were talking about, so in that discussion the other day, like, Chris just mentioned all those shows, like most of those are in the 90s, right? Like in the 80s, we're talking Cosby's. Where else were, I mean, because this is what Chris pointed out to me, and like, it was obvious when he said it out loud, but it was
Sanford
like,
and Son.
Mike, there wasn't no black people on TV. If there was, it was like the one token guy.
Yeah.
So when we started talking about like shows like, you know, Jefferson's and is it 227
227,
and Sanford
Amen.
and Son. Those
Amen.
Those were in like the early 80s. I feel like those were really big shows. But as we got older and like in the late 80s, early 90s, those were definitely not on prime time anymore. And those were like, you may find them on random Saturday mornings. But to me, I remember those shows, but not being like, they surely were not prominent.
Definitely not big three networks, right?
No,
definitely not big
that
three
point.
networks. Because by that point you had kind of like a secondary build of networks. You had like UPN, CW. I mean, Fox probably owned all those channels. I can't swear to that, but like, you know, we started to kind of split things out because cable started to become real around the 90s.
Yeah.
It's a little different.
I guess, and that is where things started to be a lot more niche, right? Like the one we really talked about was like when In Living Color came out. I mean, that it seems like a lot of those shows you just mentioned were on the same network.
Yeah, Fox.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
so
Fox.
that was basically what changed the
Fox.
game.
Yeah.
To
Right.
me,
It was
Fox
Fox.
showed up and was like, this is who we're representing.
Yeah.
Which is
we're
interesting
we're not
compared to
just
where
doing
Fox has become today
old
with the
white
news.
people TV.
Right.
Yeah, right. It's
Right.
horribly
Yeah.
full circle.
I
They
feel
shouldn't
like
have completed that circle. That's
Roger
a real
Ailes.
bummer.
I feel like in the 90s, like the stations had like one kind of major like black sitcom, you know, whether it was the Cosbys, and then, you know, we talked about Family Matters on the phone, right? That was like ABC's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
show, right? And then Fox was just like, look, we're gonna hit you with In Living Color. We're gonna give you Martin. You know, we're gonna give you
Fox
Living
basically
Single.
was like, Fox said, fuck your family shows. We're going to give you real shows. Like, we're not going to make it so the whole family has to sit down and watch this. Like, dude, in Living
was
Color,
Sunday
Ryan, you mentioned like that wasn't okay in your house, which is cool. Like, I love that we're being open about this. I had shows in my house that my dad was like, turn that shit off.
Yeah.
But in my house, it was like, my dad wouldn't let me watch Married with Children.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
Like,
God.
for some reason, my dad was just like, that's trash. That's not entertainment. Don't watch that. And I was
It
just
was
like,
Fox
damn.
in general for us because, like, Married with Children, Simpsons was on Fox, right?
Yep.
Simpsons was
Martin was tolerated, so I think I was starting to be a little bit older too, right? So when you talk about the band,
Yeah, I was
we
watching
didn't
Martin
have
in my
cable
bedroom,
either,
but not
right?
in the
So,
living
like,
room.
right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we had 3 channels, so like that's like what it was. My grandma had
Yeah,
cable,
we never
so we would
had-
get a
we
little
didn't have
more
cable
expansive
either.
there. And so like we would just have those couple channels, but Fox was kind of prohibited during youth. And there were a couple other shows that were like in there, but by the time In Living Color was out, like the ban was lifted. And like
Okay.
there would not be a Sunday with which I would miss In Living Color. Or
Yeah.
Martin, really. Martin, my family would watch Martin together because it was in Detroit. It was in Detroit. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what's up.
And so like, I don't really come from like, I don't think I come from like my family might be Southern, but I don't come from like a racist environment that way. Like I grew up in a very intolerant area where I grew up, but my
Yeah.
particular family is very much so. And my dad's very much so like a fan of equality. Although shout out Rich, I don't agree with his fucking Facebook now. Somehow his old age, his Facebook is getting to him. It's not as equal as it used to be. But when we were kids, you wouldn't hear that it would be a challenge because it was a black or white thing, right? Like I remember like Sister, we mentioned that one during their Tea and Tamia. That was always like one of my sister's like very favorite shows and
Love that
those
shit.
kinds of things. I don't think kids see color like that. I think that shit gets taught real quickly. But like picking shows as a child, I don't think for me it was like a black white thing. If anything, I was probably drawn a little bit more to the black shows. At least the ones we name now.
Yeah.
Save Theo, whatever. Chris recorded that shit. Theo
I know,
or
dude. You're making us look
Theo.
bad, dude. Mike and
You
McD
keep calling
are
him Theo. But
Is
Theo
it
had a
Theo
show.
or Theo?
It's Thea is the show I'm talking about.
Thea.
Thea.
Oh, we're getting it way wrong.
Yeah. But Theo from the Cosby Show, he had a show. Do you remember what his spinoff show was? Actually, I don't think
I remember the show. I don't remember the name.
Malcolm and Eddie.
Oh yeah, because
I like that
Malcolm
one.
Jamal
That was a good one.
His name, right?
Yeah, that was.
I
like
spinoff.
He pops up every now and again. He was, remember Malcolm Jamal Warner is the husband on a show, Community.
Shirley's husband. Yes, McD. Well done.
Yeah, I love Community. I love Community. I know we're getting close to the end of the episode here, but I like seeing the progression of different, especially sitcom actors when they pop up elsewhere. It's cool like that, right? Like 10, 20 years later. I watched, if you remember The Office, Dwight goes to work at Staples, okay? Shirley from the Office that's his coworker, right?
Well, and Annie is like in everything now, right? And I mean, I don't know, dude. All right, so this is I'm gonna out
Allison
myself
Brie
here. Yeah, I'm gonna out myself here in that I discovered Childish Gambino through Community. So I was watching that show, talking about it with someone at work, and this other dude I worked with was like, "Have you ever heard his rap?" And I was like, "Who's rap?" And they were like, "Troy. Like he's got like a moniker, and he like there's some like mixtapes out." And I was like, "What the?" And dude, right away, like I fell in love with. And I mean, this is like I don't even know. This is when Camp came out, probably. So like there wasn't a whole lot out there publicly from him. But yeah, that's how I found out about Donald Glover and like Childish Gambino. And look how big that dude is now. Like.
It's just huge
monster, bro.
And now he's
an
one
icon.
of the best TV shows with Atlanta. I think,
dude, Atlanta is. I don't know if that one's too close to Ryan, literally, but that show is incredible.
I don't identify quite as much with the youth in Atlanta, but I would tell you that like the ambiance of what they capture, like right now when it could talk about it being hot Atlanta, people talk about how hot it is and shit. He does such a good job of capturing the sounds in the greenness of Atlanta, right? The byproduct of all that humidity and heat is just like a green. Atlanta's such a city of trees. There's so much green here. And so he does an awesome job of capturing that.
You mean like the cinematography is what?
Cinematography is
more than
spot
anything?
on. Yeah.
Okay.
You feel like you're in a neighborhood. And I think he tries to shoot most of that on like the southeast side of Atlanta.
Okay.
Most of the terrain is somewhat similar across the city, right? But like you could, it's like you feel the heat when you watch a show. It's great. I love it.
Well, I'm surprised, bro. That's why if nothing else, you have to watch the first 10 minutes of White Boy Rick. Because that's all like filmed downtown Detroit. And they clearly filmed it in the past couple years, but like they did a pretty good job. I hate to say it, but you know what the downtown D looks like. It's just like, oh my God, did they have to do anything to make it look like this?
I was down there a couple of weeks ago. I have an office down there in the Fisher building for one of the companies I own, but like, or run, I shouldn't say own. It's like the new Pistons facility, which is walkable to downtown. There's
the Caesar stuff is insane.
It's not the same. It is not the same as White Boy Rick, 80s cracker of Detroit. That's for sure.
No, well, no, and that's to be clear. We're talking about two different parts of Detroit too, though, right? Like the area that they're highlighting White Boy Rick is not the downtown core.
Right.
I mean, the downtown has always looked kind of similar, but yeah, that stretch now, I mean, they have power washed it, to say the least.
Yeah. Some kind of wash.
You basically used to park. You used to park on that side of the road, right? And then come over to the Fox Theater or Tiger Stadium or whatever. And now that side is like, it's pretty beautiful over there. Like there's a lot of ways to spend your money down there. That's for sure.
Yeah. ConventioNOT listeners, come to Detroit, spend your money. It's a good place. It's a good place. If you want to do a long weekend, Detroit's a good trip. It's drivable from almost anywhere in the Midwest. You can probably go bang it out in Detroit for the whole weekend for what you would spend going like just to get to and stay in Chicago or just to get and stay in another place, Oh
yeah, and like stay in like downtown, like stay in Greektown or like Motor City, like those places are really affordable, man.
You do Cleveland the year after that. Cleveland's got like more expansive stuff to see than Detroit, but Detroit can be done in a long weekend.
I don't gamble, But people I know that visit Detroit like regularly, it's because they like to gamble. Like, I didn't know that, but like I know a woman here. She's an elderly Filipino lady.
Okay.
She goes to Detroit like every other year. She's got family that lives in Taylor. Bro, I met this woman here, and we're like really, really close friends of the family now. But so her family lives in Taylor, and she goes there every other year. She's like born in the Philippines. She goes to Taylor, Michigan. Every day they go to the casinos. You know, and I know like older people, I think they just like pulling the slots or whatever. But to me, it just warmed my heart because I didn't really know that like people... everyone always says I went to Detroit once, and then they tell you their story, and then you're like, yeah, I get why you haven't been back. You know, because usually if it was like, man, I went to Detroit in 1992, what the fuck? You know, you're just like, oh yeah, no, like that's not. Why did you go there
for a game?
Yeah, exactly. You didn't go with a group of people? Oh, yeah, no, that's not good. But to think there's like a couple like older ladies like walking down the street and smoking their cigarettes and then going and gambling for like 10 hours and then like that warms my heart. It just warms my heart. I didn't know people did that in Detroit. You know what I mean? And I feel like growing up for me, that wasn't like, I don't think people were just coming in to gamble in Detroit. I'd like to think they are now. There's something. Maybe not currently, but you know, next summer.
Right.
Scrilla, I know you got to go, man. We've been holding you up. You've been patient with us, multitasking as always. This guy's watching his son. He's blowing his nose, and he's podcasting with us.
He's signing books.
He's doing it all well.
He's trying to manage it all, fellas.
Hey, what's the before we get off here? What and where can I go to buy the book? How do I look it up? Part of why we have part of why we do these shows is so we can promote the things that are important to us. One of those things is Chris's book. How do I get it?
Well, thank you for that. You can get it at youcanbeanythingmajor.com. That's youcanbeanythingmajor.com. Check it out.
Nice.
If you don't have kids, that's all right. Give it to someone who does, you know, give it to a dreamer, a future creative.
Upcoming, Mike and I are really working on, we're thinking about doing a Christmas album. Yesterday we were working hard on naming the Christmas album with Chris. He's a kind soul, Christopher is, in, you know, thinking about some of the songs that might be on the album. Scrilla, Under the Mistletoe might be one of the tracks. I think about, you know, Cool J did a couple. We mentioned Cool J earlier. He did a couple little like classic Christmas
branch
jams.
out, Scrilla. Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Don't be
so
shy.
If you're out there, this might sound early to you. You know, it's August right now, and you're listening to this, but like we need some suggestions for the Christmas album. Chris is out there. He's in the studio. You see him. We got to help this guy out. You know, we got to do it. Help. They need to be original songs, though. You know? Yeah,
Chris's carols coming at you this year, baby.
Send all poems to us at conventioNOT_podcast on Instagram. You can also send any photos of any notes you might take through the Facebook feed with the same name. That's where we are. That's who we are. Is that it, boys?
That's it.
I think so. That'll do.
That's it. We out.